So how do you get more listing leads? Hi, my name is Chris Scott, real estate digital marketer at the Paperless Agent, and in this video, I'm going to show you our 5-step plan for lots of listing leads. Now, there's something important I have to point out as we go through each one of these 5 steps. You may have tried doing some of these things on your own at different times and they didn't work. And so I need you to listen very carefully to exactly how we're stringing these steps, these 5 steps together, and the details, because it is the details that make them effective. It's the details that make this work. So I need you to pay attention and don't discount this if you say to yourself, I tried blogging before and it didn't work. There's a reason. And so actually, out of the 5 steps, the first of those 5 steps is to publish useful real estate information. Now you could do this on a blog like the example you see here. You could also shoot a video and put it onto YouTube. But I prefer to use a blog or a post or an article on our website. But here's the thing. Blogging or writing articles and putting them online, that's not going to bring clients out of the woodwork. You're not going to get people saying, hey, great blog post, I want to work with you, okay? Fact of the matter is, not enough people are going to see it. However, we are going to use this blog post for a different purpose. So a couple of things. First, it must be real estate information. I say publish useful real estate information for a reason. And the reason is we want to associate ourselves with informational value connected to real estate. We also want to see ourselves we want people to see us as being an expert in the domain of real estate. But here's the reason why we're putting this information out there. It is not to hope that people will see it and just contact us, but rather the purpose is to provide informational value, right? So the informational value is going to be the reason for our outreach. In the following steps, we're going to look at different ways to use this information as the reason or the excuse to communicate with people. Because the fact of the matter is, it is easier for you to promote informational value than it is to promote yourself. What do you feel more comfortable doing? Saying, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. Or do you prefer to say, hey, I put together some information that I thought you would find useful? By the way, here's what happens. You are associated with real estate. You're associated with providing this value. A byproduct of sharing this real estate related information is that it creates a sense of authority or credibility for your online reputation. So that's the first step that we're going to do, is to publish useful real estate information. Now the second step is to send that useful real estate information to people that you know. Because like I mentioned earlier, just creating that information is not enough. We have to now begin the activity of getting this information into people's hands, into people's inboxes, into people's social media accounts, right? So the second step here is you're going to send an email out, right, to all of your contacts and connections that you have an email address for, an email that summarizes that useful information or summarizes that blog post that we shared in step 1. I like the subject line of this particular email. It says, what could a recession mean for real estate, right? So it's hitting one of the hot buttons because the topic of that article that we happened to share was about, what's happening in the real estate market. Now that useful real estate information doesn't always have to be about, what's happening with the real estate market. You could do home design trends, remodeling trends. You could do articles on real estate investing. So the specific topic doesn't have to be the same. In fact, I encourage you to change it. But once we have that post, we must email people about it and include a link in the email to that post. So the first step many of you will have is to have to gather up your contact information for all your contacts and connections so you can actually email them this information. So you're going to email this to all of your contacts. You want to include your current clients, your past clients, pretty much anybody that you know, right? So you don't need to only send this to people who are actively looking or somebody you would consider a prospect or a lead. You send this to everybody that you know who might potentially be able to refer or recommend you because you're making it easier for them to do so, right? By sending this information out, right? And we're not going to only use email. We're going to use a series of different forms of communication. But what we want to do is we want to create a sense of awareness of the service that we provide. We want people, when they think of real estate, right, when they have a conversation about real estate, or when they think of real estate, we want them to think of us. We also, when they think of us, we also want to have them think of real estate, right? That would always being aware of what we provide, always being top of mind. And so make sure you add a link to that blog post. This is just a summary to get it into their hands. The third step is to share a 1-minute video where you're going to summarize the talking points from that blog post, because we wrote that blog post, we wrote that article, right? And then we sent an email that summarized it with a link to that post to everybody who we have an email address for. But not everyone's going to open email. Not everyone's going to engage the email. So we got to use multiple modes or modalities of communication. So we've got email, right? But now we're going to use social media. And the most powerful way to currently use social media would be to use video. And so what we're going to do is we're going to record a brief video. I say 1 minute. I mean, it could be 45 seconds. It could be 3 minutes if you wanted it to be. But you're just going to talk about the highlights from that blog post, from that article that we had shared. And you can include a link in the text of the video for people to learn more information. Now, here's what we're going to do with that video. We're going to post this on our Facebook business page, right? So you need a Facebook business page so you can do the next step, which is to promote the video using Facebook ads. We're actually going to use the Facebook advertising platform to promote it to at least 3 of the following folks, right? Or groups of people. We want to market this to anybody who is in our database. You can upload your database, those contacts and connections, to Facebook, right? And then you can select them as an audience. We also want to put this in front of anyone who's visited our website. So using Facebook's ad platform, you can track people who visit your website and then create an audience of those people who have visited your website. Another very powerful audience is people who've watched your videos, right? So if they've watched any amount of video of the ones that you've published on your Facebook business page, or that you've run ads for, or that you've shared, then they are going to also be an audience that you can say, I want to put this information in front of these folks. So in addition to doing that, running that campaign for it, is you also want to take that video that you've posted on your business page, and from your business page, share it onto your personal profile. What this is going to do is engage Facebook's algorithm that determines what's going to show up in our news feeds. It's the same algorithm that determines what's going to show up in our news feed that determines what advertisements are going to show up in there as well. By using this format of video, right? It's unique. Only you can produce it. Facebook likes this type of content. It likes this type of information. And when you create an advertisement around it, where you take that extra step to be able to promote that video, then you're going to get much better results. I just want to highlight some of the results that you might get from looking at this particular campaign that we ran, where my business partner Gary, he shot a quick video talking about what's going on in the market, posted that, and then I promoted it for him. And we got 893 people reached. There were 723 people who watched at least 3 seconds of this video. There were 85 people clicking on it to get more information about this particular video. And here's the thing. We didn't spend a fortune. We didn't break the bank. In fact, we only spent $2.93. That's right, we spent $2.93. We didn't spend a fortune, we didn't break the bank, spent a couple of dollars for a day, a couple of days, and we were able to get that in front of lots of people. And that's all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to do at this stage, is get this in front of the people who already have some form of connection with us, get this in front of people who might refer us, recommend us. I'm going to talk more about why this works after we get through all 5 of the steps. Step 4 is to post on social media a traditional form. This is not going to be as powerful as the video that we would have done and that you would do in step 3, but it's still a good thing to do. So post, an image promoting that article. You can do this multiple times throughout the month, but post it on your business page. You can share it from your business page on your personal profile, and also any other social media platforms that you're using, whether it's Instagram. You'll have to, of course, modify it to meet that format, but what you're trying to do is take advantage of all those connections that you have and those contacts that you have that are connected to you, putting this information out there and having it out there regularly. So what happens is these different mediums, right, the email, the video, the social media, all of these start to get more exposure, particularly when we run those advertisements for the videos as well. And so lots of people are going to see this. In fact, if you're marketing this to the right people, everybody who knows you, whether they're a contact, whether they're a connection of yours on social media, whether they're a friend of those people, there's a really good chance that they are seeing what you're putting out there. And that's going to be critical for this next step, the 5th and final step. The 5th and final step is to do individual messaging and follow up. And all of the previous steps, what they did is to, one, take this informational value, right, that's related to real estate, and then we're promoting it and we're sending it out in all these different ways. But what we want to do is put one more very important piece to the puzzle in place, because the fact of the matter is, in real estate, you can do a lot of marketing, but nothing's going to be the personal connection that you can create, right? Real estate is a relational business. And so the salesmanship behind doing individual follow-up is a more heavily weighted communication. It's a more heavily weighted communication in terms of how it's received and how it feels, because the person who receives an individual message or an individual phone call, right, or a text message from you just checking in, that person feels the presence, your presence on the other end of the communication, so therefore it's more weighted. And so one of our favorite tools is just using Facebook Messenger to pop in. You don't need to reference the campaign that you send out. Just say, hey, you popped up in my feed, I was curious how you're doing, wanted to check in. And here's what happens. Someone will say, hey, it's great to hear from you. And here's the thing, they've seen the other marketing that's been going on over the course of the month. So if they've seen any of that marketing, and if they have real estate on the brain because they've been thinking of buying or selling, or perhaps they have a recommendation or a referral for you, this is where you harvest that opportunity, because they're going to say, oh, I've been meaning to talk to you. I've been meaning to check in. Thanks so much. It's great to hear from you. I've been wanting to talk to you. And that's how we are able to harvest those opportunities. Now, a very important, an important dimension to this 5-step campaign is that you do this consistently, right? So you don't do this just once. You do this once. You do these 5 steps every month, after month, after month. And what you're gonna find will happen over time as you create that consistency. And it's only 5 steps, right? You can do this in 2 hours a month. It's only 5 steps. So if you do this regularly, what you're gonna find is that people will be reaching out to you, people will be responding to you, and they're also gonna you're gonna get a lot more recommendations, you're gonna get a lot more referrals, you're gonna get a lot more word of mouth, right? You'll have people contacting you and you're like, yeah, I didn't even know I knew this person. And that is that word of mouth in effect. I want to talk a little bit about why this campaign works and why it works so well. The first thing we have to understand is that according to the National Association of Realtors, the lion's share, the biggest slice of the pie, right, for sellers in terms of how they find their real estate agent, it's either referral, which includes like word of mouth, word of click, or they're a repeat client, right? It's like almost 70% of the business. And here's what I found. It is far easier to find clients where there's a surplus rather than trying to go fishing where there's very few fish. I like to use that analogy of fishing. Whenever I go fishing, I read the fishing reports so that I know where is there an abundance of fish, what kind of fish is in abundance, where are they, and what are they biting on? Because it is easier for an unskilled person like me in fishing to be able to catch those fish where there's a lot of them. And so within real estate, here's the thing: if you're fishing in a space where there's not that many clients, maybe you're trying to work the websites, maybe you're trying to do a lot of like just cold calling, the percentage of people who find their real estate professional from those sources is significantly lower. So it gets harder. You need greater and greater skill to be effective, and you just have to have a lot more effort. And there is a much bigger slice of the pie available to us, and it's through that referrals, through that word of mouth, right? Through those recommendations that we can produce, and repeat customers. Fact of the matter is, people are actually more likely to go find somebody new, get recommended to somebody new, than to work with us again. Right? That's just the state of the union of how our communication is. So that's why this campaign works, because what we're doing is we're going to zero in on the actual source of referrals and repeat business. And that source of those referrals, those recommendations, that word of mouth, that word of click, is your contacts and your connections. It's also the source of where repeat customers, if you've been selling real estate, you've got repeat clients in this mix. Here's the thing, it is far easier to grow this source and to capitalize on this source by a little bit than try to go after a source that you're not effective with, or that you don't have a lot of skill or experience, and where there's not that many of those fish in there, and try to multiply your effectiveness by a lot, right? So it's much easier to go here and use this strategy that we've been talking about, this 5-step plan that we've been talking about, to get a better result. Because when we use this strategy, when we use this 5-step plan, we're focusing on those contacts and connections. We are sharing that useful information. We're sending out that, we're getting it into their hands. We're using video, we're using social media, right? We're using that personal touch. And what happens over time is it's going to consistently produce those recommendations and referrals. It's going to consistently produce that word of mouth, those repeat clients, and it will result in an increased reputation for you in your marketplace. And instead of chasing after, the next cool way to find a client, the next hard and cool way to find a client, or instead of increasing how much money you spend in all these other places, why not invest in those tools, those technologies, the effort to grow the contacts and connections that we have, and better implement these 5 steps to get the results that we want. And so that's our 5-step plan for getting lots of listing leads. Remember what they are. Step 1, we're going to publish useful real estate information, perhaps on a blog. Step 2, we're going to send that useful information to the people that we know. Step 3, we're going to record and promote a 1-minute video where we talk about that useful information. Step 4, we're going to post that information on social media. And step 5, we're going to do individual messaging and follow-up so that we can get more listing leads.